Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time being here, thank you so much for being here. My job is very simple. It's to help you remember who you are beyond your confinements of your ego. That's it. Pretty simple. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to share it with someone else. At the end of the day, my greatest joy is to help you remember who you are, and so that you can embody more of your power. Pretty simple, if you ask me. Not easy, but pretty simple. So if you feel there is someone who could benefit from being more empowered, I would love for you to share this video with them as well. It helps the algorithm, and it helps this information be spread to as many people as possible. At the end of the day, the more in our power we are, the less we will feel powerless, and the less likely we will be fighting with each other. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for being here. Without you, I wouldn't do this. And I absolutely love what I do. I love connecting with higher consciousness because it reminds me where my home is. So let this video also be a reminder for you. Today, I had an interesting topic come into my mind about to talk about what is spirituality. What is this thing called spirituality? When a person says, I am spiritual, what is it exactly that they mean? And by the way, whether you call yourself spiritual or you call yourself an atheist, you are spirit embodied. And the universe doesn't care whether you believe it or not, because the universe sees you for who you really are, which is embodiment of source, okay? But when I asked the question, what does it mean to be spiritual? What came to me is to be one with source. What does it mean to be one with source? To no longer deny the source within you. To be one with source, to no longer deny the source, the divine within you. To be spiritual is to be in alignment with your true self. Not your distortions, your true self. And I channeled some words that came through, so I'm going to read them to you. So when I said, what does it mean to be spiritual? One of the answers was, it's an embodiment, not an act. You don't act out spirituality, you become it. How? By being true and honest with yourself. It's not pretending that everything is fine, but it's also not letting yourself become your distortions. The true you has no distortions. It simply is a radiant light stemming from source's consciousness. It's not a thing you become. It's the you, the source that you embody. It is not a costume you wear. It's a frequency you embody. Frequency of source and wholeness. That's when you shine the brightest. Spirituality is that. You begin the radiant, you being the radiant you have always been, but for God. So this is what spirituality is according to source. So let me go through a list of what spirituality is not. And then why are we talking about this? I'm asking the question, why is it so important for us to talk about this topic? Because spirituality is not something you become. Spirituality, spirit is who you already are. You don't have to become spiritual to be the spirit that you are, embodied. And the reason why this is important is because when we think of ourselves as trying to become spiritual, we are denoting that we are somewhat separate from the spiritual aspect when we're not. That is the consciousness of separation. We are not separate from source or from spirit, or some call it God. And the higher consciousness, the higher frequency which the planet Earth is moving into, is more about embodying higher consciousness, embodying that deeper truth. So here are some things about what spirituality is not. Okay, I feel this will be helpful. Spirituality is not using spiritual language to sound wise without actually living the truth. So if someone calls themselves spiritual and they talk a good game, but they don't walk the talk, they're just performing, okay? That's not spirituality. Trying to appear calm, peaceful, or enlightened to be liked or admired. That's not spirituality. That's performing. Avoiding difficult emotions by masking them with positive vibes only. Love and light, love and light, love and light. No, that is not spirituality. That is avoidance. Okay. Treating spiritual practices like checkboxes. Meditating, praying, journaling without actual presence. Because what we are doing when we're doing that, we are again performing for the sake of. That's not spirituality. Believing that more tools, courses, or rituals will make you more spiritual. They won't. They may help you, but they cannot make you anything other than who and what you already are. So seeking out endless tools and endless courses and rituals to become spiritual is, in my very humble opinion, a waste of time. All you have to do is remember who you are underneath your consciousness, underneath things you see and know about yourself as a human being. You are so much more than that. So, believing more tools, courses, or rituals will make you more spiritual, that's not spirituality, okay? That's trying to get something from outside of you. And by doing that, you're basically confirming to yourself that you are not already whole. You are whole. You just don't embody it. Looking the part, crystals, altars, robes, but being disconnected from the body or truth. There are, I'm sure you've seen, and this is not a judgment. It may sound like a judgment. Is it a judgment? It certainly is an observation. I have seen many spiritual people talking a good game and wearing the right thing and saying the right things and eating the right foods, being extremely judgmental. That's not spirituality, because spirit, which is an essence of source, does not judge. So if you are someone that is not judging or doing your best not to judge as often, you are embodying more of your spiritual self, because you recognize that beyond the costumes that we wear as human beings, we all are part of the same thing. We're all a part of source. And there's no amount of denying that will make us separate from source. There's no amount of denying our separateness that is going to make us somehow separate from source. We cannot be separate from source. And judgments separate us. So those are the things about what spirituality is not. Here's what spirituality is. And first and foremost, spirituality is an embodiment of your spirit, your inner source. So what is spirituality? Living in alignment with your values, even when no one is watching. Who are you behind closed doors? Are you a kind person? Are you a loving person? Are you a compassionate person? Are you a generous person? Are you a loving person? Doesn't mean you don't have your quirks, but are you that? When no one is watching, then you are embodying more of your spirit self. Okay. Telling yourself the truth and honoring what's real inside of you. How many times, and we've all done it, including myself, have we denied our truth because we didn't want to rock the boat? How many times have we said no to ourselves because we were afraid of losing something? How many times have we dismissed what was real of us in order not to be abandoned or not liked. We've all done it. But at the end of the day, when we deny our own truth, when we don't honor our truth, we're hurting ourselves. Okay? That's not spirituality. Spirituality is when you honor your truth. When you honor your truth. And sometimes it's very difficult to honor your truth because it sometimes can mean rocking the boat. Right? So owning your truth is uncomfortable, and rocking the boat is also uncomfortable, but which one puts you at more dis-ease? Certainly in my experience, denying my truth has always put me at a space of dis-ease, whereas was not at ease with myself because I wasn't flowing. And even though I wasn't speaking my truth because I didn't want to rock the boat, by not speaking my truth, I would try to keep this false sense of safety. And the reason why it was false sense of safety is because it wasn't real. Not that the safety wasn't real, but because it was created based on my denial of myself, which is not very kind to your spirit, let's put it that way. Why? Because when you deny yourself, when you deny your truth, on a certain level, it hurts. Because what you are doing is you are denying yourself. When you deny yourself, you push yourself away. And when we push aspects of ourselves away, we begin to vibrate in dissonance. In other words, we are no longer vibrating in resonance within ourselves. When we are not resonating in resonance, we are not at peace. So, to say it differently, when we deny ourselves our truth, we are creating dis-ease or discontentment inside of ourselves, and that never feels good. Okay? Letting your body lead, being present with sensation, emotion, and breath. This is what spirituality is. Letting your body lead. Listening to your body. Not being obsessed with your body, but recognizing that your body is an amazing instrument and it is your temple. And it has its own innate intelligence and it communicates with you through feelings and emotions. When we don't pay attention to our feelings and emotions, we are denying ourselves what is. And whenever we deny ourselves what is, we live at war with ourselves, essentially is what we're doing. We are separating ourselves from ourselves. When we do that, we are not being spiritual. On the other hand, when we allow ourselves to feel, when we allow ourselves to know the truth, when we are in our body enough to really feel and be present, even when it's uncomfortable, that's being spiritual. Okay? Choosing integrity over image, even if it costs approval. How many times have we done this? Not saying something or appearing to be someone because we wanted to belong. Okay. Not saying no to somebody because we don't want to hurt their feelings. Not wanting to be honest with the person because we don't want to hurt their feelings. All those things, right? And however, when we do that, we are not living in our own integrity, which means essentially we are not being true to ourselves. And that's not to say that you get to say everything you feel to somebody, especially if it's being hurtful. That's not honesty. Honesty is being honest with how you feel and present it in a way that's gentle and graceful. Not always easy, but it's absolutely possible. Okay. Also, being fully human, messy, sacred, flawed, and present, and loving yourself through it. Spirituality is not a walk in the park. I've said this before, I'm going to say it many times, because it isn't. It isn't unicorn and roses. It is challenging at times and oftentimes extremely challenging. And the reason for that is because to be on a spiritual journey is to start remembering and realizing who we really are, which means also realizing who we are not. We are not our bodies, we are not our feelings, we are not our emotions, we are not our experiences. And when we are defined by that, we live more in our ego. Nothing wrong with ego. I always talk about ego is good. But when ego is in a driver's seat, ego controls your life. And ego is very limited. So when we live more in our ego, we experience more of a limited life because ego is limited. On the other hand, your true you is unlimited. So when we begin to distance ourselves from the illusions of our ego, we begin to expand more into the consciousness of our soul, which is far more expanded than the consciousness of your ego. And what does that mean? It means you essentially begin to experience more of yourself and for yourself. The less we identify with our ego, the more we begin to, quote unquote, vibrate higher, which allows us to be in much more expanded consciousness. And from an expanded level of consciousness, we have expanded experiences. Okay. So being spiritual also means being messy, sacred, and flawed. And it often comes with sometimes depression, anger, loss, feelings of being lost, ego death, fears coming up to the surface. Spirituality is messy. But at the end of the day, the spiritual process is messy, but at the end of the day, the more we align ourselves with our true spirit selves, the more we will embody more of the source, which we already are. Okay? Trusting your inner resonance more than external validation. This is what it means to be spiritual, to trust your own inner resonance more than external validation. And to trust your inner resonance means you have to trust you. If you don't trust you, you're not going to trust what's coming out of you, what's trying to express itself from you. How do we begin to trust ourselves more? First and foremost, we should start distrusting the things we tell ourselves. For example, I'm small. No, don't trust that. I am not good enough. No, don't trust that. I am not competent. No, don't trust that. Instead, trust in your higher self. Why? Because your higher self knows you more than you know yourself. And when I say when you know yourself, predominantly from the space of ego. When you are led by your higher consciousness, you'll never go wrong. Because your higher consciousness will never lead you astray, but your ego will. Letting your frequency speak louder than your words. Being spiritual, if I can use that term, is to be so fully embodied that you don't need to say a word to create a ripple effect in the energy field around you. To be so in tune with your wholeness that you don't need to say much. And the very beingness that you are is the very presence that makes your field so potent. In fact, the more in your power you are, the less loud your ego's voice is. I have seen very empowered individuals, like truly empowered. And there is something very quiet about them. They don't talk very much. They often make fun of themselves. They're very lighthearted, though it does not mean they deny what's going on in the world. No, it doesn't mean that at all. But they have compassion, and they often don't say very much. But when they do say something, it creates this booming effect. Okay, that's being spiritual. And that person is not trying to be powerful. The person is in their embodiment of what truly is already. They're in the embodiment of Source. They are Source embodied, and then don't just know it intellectually, they're being it. That's a very, very powerful energy. Knowing that God and Source is not something you talk about, it's something you become. So this is pretty much the same thing. Look, most, not all, let's say many humans out there have been led to believe that Source is something that is outside of them. Call it God, whatever you want to call it. It's something they have to pray to, which means they're at a disadvantage, because if you pray to something, then you place that something above you, which makes this something some sort of an authority. Okay? Source is not your authority. Source gave you authority over yourself. Source is not your authority. Source gave you authority over yourself. That's a big one. What does that mean, Joanna? I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. So when we start to remember that Source is not something that we outsource, that power is not something that we outsource, that God is not something that we outsource, when we begin to remember that Source power, quote unquote, God is within you, it changes everything. And I mean everything. My human mind is trying to run around, think about what that means, but I'm just going to let it do its thing. To be spiritual, quote unquote, is to be in your own embodiment of the Source within you. Yes, Source is within you. It's not something you seek out. It's not something you have to get. It's not something you beg for. It's not something you have to be worthy of. It's who you are. You are an extension of Source. And there's no amount of denying it that's going to make you not that. Not going to happen. So if you are praying to some outside source, you are praying to something that's separate from you. You are not separate from your source. So if you want to pray to you. What does it mean to pray, Joanna? To have a conversation. To have a conversation with what? Well, you have a conversation with yourself. You have a conversation with Source within you. You can have a conversation with whoever or whatever you want. What is your conversation with Source? Do you have a conversation with Source? Do you only pray, but do you listen? Do you listen what Source says to you? And Source doesn't say things that you hear through your ears necessarily. Source communicates to you, to us, in various different ways, through a song, through a bird, through a poem, through a friend who says something to you, through a song. I already said that. Source communicates to you in a gazillion different ways. The question is, do we listen? So here's an interesting conundrum. Well, Joanna, you say Source lives within me and Source communicates with me. Why can't I hear Source? That's an interesting question. Why can't you hear Source? Perhaps because you've stopped listening. Perhaps it's because you've stopped listening to Source and you started to listen to your ego's voice instead. And your ego is very clever. Nothing wrong with the ego. But the ego's voice is often much, much, much louder than Source, than your inner Source. And that's because Source doesn't put any pressure on you. Source gives you free will. On the other hand, ego is all about control. Nothing wrong with control. I always say a little bit of control is absolutely necessary. Too much control not very palatable. So we have to stop outsourcing our spirituality. We have to stop thinking that somehow spirituality is something we're going to get when we do more of this, or that. No. Spirituality is not something we do. Spirituality is something we become. Even more than that. It's not who we become. It's who we remember that we are already. You're a spirit having a physical experience. Source flows within you. It's in front of you, it's outside of you, it's underneath you, it's above you, it's in every single cell, every single atom. You cannot be without it, period. Whether you give it a name, whether you give it a shape, whether you call it this or that, it doesn't matter. Source lives within you. Why is it important to know? Well, most humans think of God as something very powerful, right? Well, Source is very powerful. It's all powerful. And what we're saying here is that powerful thing lives within you. It's not a thing, but let's just use that analogy. That powerful thing is within you. So if Source is powerful and that Source is within you, then that makes you very fucking powerful, doesn't it? You forgot about it, didn't you? That's okay. You're like most humans are here on this journey, listening to this type of information, to remember that you and Source are not separate from each other. Source is not a thing. Source is not a man. Source is not a woman. Source cannot be something that can be explained or grasped with the human mind. It'll never happen. And that's because Source cannot be grasped intellectually. Source is something to be experienced. And to experience Source is to be in the body. So I talked about this in another video. The less we are in the body and the more we are in head, the more we are thinking in terms of concepts and ideas pertaining to God. God is not an idea. God simply is. Any label you put on it, you make it, you limit it. Source is unlimited, and there's no way the human mind will ever be able to grasp it. But your body can feel it. So it is important to be in our bodies. Spirituality is not bypassing your body. And oftentimes I've heard this in some spiritual circles, don't pay attention to your body. No, it's not important. Of course it is. It's your vehicle for having this experience. Take care of your body. Eat healthy. Nurture your body. Give permission for your body to feel, because body is an important part of your journey in this lifetime. So don't discount your body and your body's experience as something very powerful and also spiritual. Your body is also spiritual. A lot of people deny themselves of the body, various different ways. And I'm not saying, go and eat, 10,000 cookies in one sitting, but also don't be so strict that you don't have a life. Find the middle ground somewhere, okay? Be healthy, be smart, be adventurous, be safe, but don't deny yourself your body. There's a reason why I'm saying this to some of you, okay? A lot of people hold a lot of shame about their bodies, about their sexuality, okay? Let me tell you one thing, and don't take my word for it, but this is my experience. Source doesn't give a shit what you think about sexuality. Source says, you have sexual energy within you, and that's extraordinarily powerful. Do with it what you want. Okay? So notice if any of you are holding any shame around your body. And shame is, an ugly feeling. I'm sure all of you have felt shamed at some point, but a lot of us carry a lot of shame, and that's a trauma. So some of you might be starting to, I want to say, reveal some programming around shame regarding your body and sexuality. So this message might activate something in you, okay? If you are holding on to shame around your sexuality, you are effectively limiting your power of creation. You're limiting your creative powers. If you hold a lot of sexual or intimacy, shame around intimacy and sexuality, you are limiting your power. Okay? I'm not saying go out there and, go crazy. And I'm not going to overtalk it, but if you're holding shame around sexuality and around sensuality, you are robbing yourself of your power. So it's important for you to look at that. I don't know who this message is for, but it seems very important. The sexual chakra, the sacral chakra, is also tied to the idea of Kundalini. And Kundalini is a very, it's a feminine force. It's a source of creation. And the feminine is rising on this planet because it has been suppressed for a very long time. So if you hold on to any shame or sexual issues or intimacy, it is very likely that around this time, things are going to be activated for you in order for you to release it. Okay? Perhaps some old trauma coming to the surface, not because something is happening, but because some old memory is percolating up. Okay? Lots of crying. I feel this, somehow these words are going to activate you. So if this is activating you in some way around the idea of shame, insignificance, sexual identity, there's something in this video for you to consider looking at. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because it disempowers you. It robs you of your own power. Okay? It has a limiting impact on you. And I know that you would want to experience more of yourself rather than a limited version of yourself. I know that because we all want to do that. Okay. All right. What else do I want to say? I think we talked about what is spirituality. What is being true to ourselves mean? Well, being true to myself is not pretending like I'm calm all the time, because that's not how life is. I am not calm all the time. I have my moments. And pretending that I don't have them, it doesn't make sense. I would be lying to myself. So I choose to go through life and its ups and downs, honoring and acknowledging of my experience, even the one that is not comfortable. Okay? That's spirituality. That's not running away from what we're feeling and not running away from our problems. And I'm not saying that's easy. Spirituality is also not about being perfect and pure and endlessly positive. That's, again, can often be cloaked as spiritual bypassing, emotional bypassing. Nothing is always perfect because life has its ups and downs. So pretending like everything is fine when it's not, it's lying to ourselves. That's not being true to ourselves. And when we are not being true to ourselves, we are not embodying as much of our soul, as much of our source. So not being true to yourself is separating you more from your source, even though you technically can't be separate from it. But I think you get the picture. It's also not about avoiding anger, grief, or fear. And this is a big one. A lot of people that I have met, including clients, have been trained to not express anger or fear or anything else. And there is no such thing as a bad feeling. They don't feel good, but feeling in and of itself, it's not neither good nor bad. It simply is. And when we're trained to suppress our emotions, we are walking around and ready to be triggered all over the place. So expressing emotion is extremely important. It's moving the energy through the body. It's expressing energy through the body. How we express it, that's all individual's choice. But expressing emotions, it's incredibly not only powerful, spiritually aligned, but it's necessary. Otherwise, we create energetic blockages in our body. So just because you are angry or fearful or you're holding resentment does not mean that you're not spiritual. You're just feeling that right now, and it's okay for you to feel it. The thing is, don't hang on to it. Don't cling on to it. Don't make it be your identity. Let it move through you. It's also not about being light. Light and hearts and lights, love and light. It's about being real. To be spiritual is to be a real person. Okay? In fact, They said to me, the team said this to me a few weeks ago, you know, to be at your best is to do less rather than more. And there's 3 things that they gave me. They said, stop doing that and you're going to just be at your best. So to be at your best, to be in your greatest power, to be your true self, is to not pretending, not performing, and not proving yourself. Drop all these 3 things, and then you become the best version of yourself. Okay? But we've been trained from the very early on that we have to be this, or that to be loved, to be supported, to be valued, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? And it's the trying in life that makes it hard. Have you noticed that sometimes the harder you try, the more difficult it is? And then when you finally let it go, it just goes. So being spiritual doesn't mean that you pretend everything is fine. Being spiritual doesn't mean that you see something is wrong and you say, oh, no, there's a higher purpose of this. Yes, there's always a higher purpose, but being spiritual doesn't mean you see everything with rose glasses. It means you're real. For example, whenever I see anyone abusing anything, especially animals, of course people too, yes, but especially animals, when I see that, I almost want to say my spirituality goes out the window because I get very angry. I get very angry. And I allow myself to feel that, and I don't feel bad about feeling it. It's not that I shouldn't feel angry. God damn, I should feel angry. Why this animal is being abused? Of course I'm going to be angry. The idea here is not holding on to it. Letting that express itself through me and not holding on to it. And yes, eventually I'm able to move the anger out of my body, look at the situation from a higher perspective, and find a way to honor what I feel, but also I don't hold on to it because I don't want to be an angry person. Because when I'm an angry person, it hurts me and everybody around me. Okay. So I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover today. Sorry if it feels a little bit all over the place, but this is just kind of how it flows. But I hope it gave you something to think about. Again, spirituality is not something you do. Spirituality is who you become when you stop pretending, proving, or performing. Okay, so just maybe look at your life and ask yourself, when am I not being true to myself? And not from the judgment's perspective, it's just be honest. When am I not being true to myself? Is there something in my life that I would like to express or experience, but I'm giving myself a whole bunch of excuses so I don't have to go through the discomfort of it? Again, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Where are you not being true to yourself? Where are you not being true to somebody? And then ask the question, why? Why am I not being true to myself? What is it? What's in it for me? When I deny myself my truth, what do I get from that? Because at the end of the day, whatever you get out of it, I can pretty much guarantee you, it's not worth denying yourself because that hurts. When you deny yourself, you are at odds with yourself. When you are at odds with yourself, you are effectively at war with yourself, which means you don't experience inner peace. You don't experience inner peace. And the opposite of inner peace is anxiety. I don't want to live in anxiety. I know what it's like. I used to live in it 24/7 for several decades, 50 years. And it's not a place I like to feel, but it was a place I used to go home. I used to call anxiety my home. It was the norm for me. Now that I know what it's like not to have anxiety 24/7, going back to feeling that is like, well, no, thank you. I don't want to feel that anymore. What I'm saying is this. When you stop denying yourself of the truth that you are one with the universe and sources within you, when you start embodying that truth, and when you start letting go of the distortions that you have identified with, your whole life will begin to open in a way that cannot even be described. And all you have to do is stop performing, pretending, and proving. So I hope this was helpful. If you would like to help with your journey, I offer single sessions. Let me know how this resonated with you. Let me know what you took out of it, what triggered you, or maybe gave you something to think about. And I hope that you found this helpful. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care of yourself and have a great day. Bye-bye.